Kakadosh Boker Or. Daf Yomi Makkot Daf Kaf Aleph Amud Aleph. We're 21A1. We're talking about where the Gemara came and started saying about that we needed the word lanefesh in order to teach you that only if you're going to do a lanefesh, you're going to be chayav. But if you're going to do it for any other reason, whether it was the house came down or the sea, right, took one of the boats, right, and it sunk the ship, whatever, there's not going to be a problem over there. So Kasava Rabbi Yosef comes and he says Sritan Greda and Gedida. When it says Veseret lanefesh or Lotit Godedu lamet, Zeoto Davar, it's the same lashon. So therefore, and it's written over there, lamet. So therefore, obviously, right, then lanefesh, I could have learned it was miutar. So because of that, I could say that if a person is going to come and be soret begufo on 5 metim, he's going to be chayav 5 malkuyot. Okay? 5 different lashes. Okay? Amar Shemuel, says Shemuel, I'm saret bekli. Yeah. So I'm saret bekli. If somebody's going to take a utensil and he's going to make a seret on his, right? Yeshlo, he was going to make a seret on his body for a met, he's going to be hayav. He's going to be chayav. Yeah. Lo מדברים על שריטות במוח. Yeah, we're talking about soret baguf. Yeah, he's going to be chayav. Meitzveh. So says the Gemara, Metave, we're going to ask the following question. Srita ugdida achati, I thought it's the same thing. Ela srita beyad ugdida bakli. It comes out that srita is if you do it with your hand. And gedida is going to be if you're doing it with a utensil. So says the Gemara, Hu damar Rabbi Yosef, you're right. He holds like Rabbi Yosef that really be'emed, the 2 different psukim are teaching you on the same thing. That if somebody's going to do a srita, whether it's going to be bayad or whether it's going to be bakli, you're going to be chayav. Yeah. Gedida is baby utensil, yes. And srita is going to be biyad. Okay. Lotit godedu, you're not allowed to lotit godedu lamet. You're not allowed to make a srita for the met, yes, because of the tzar alamet. So Tana Kameh, Rabbi Yochanan. So they taught on a bright in front of Rabbi Yochanan. Somebody that's going to make a chabura because of tzar almet. Ben biyad, ben bekli, whether it's going to be with a hand or whether it's going to be with a utensil, he's going to be chayav malkut. He's going to be chayav lashes. So the Braita continues, al avodat kochavim, he's going to be biyad, he's going to be chayav. Bekli, he's going to be patur. Okay? So says the Gemara, veha ibchaktiv. I thought it's written the exact opposite. Vayitkodedu k'mishpatam b'charavot u'v'ramechamim. Which means that here kimishpatam is davka with a kli, because it says that you're going to be vayitkodedu with chacherev and romach. Remember, chacherev is a sword and romach is a spear. So says the Gemara, elaima, but rather you have to say, yeah, bayad is going to be patur, right? Because it's not normal doing it that way. Bekli, you're going to be chayav mita. So basically, if the avodah zarah was doing it, so therefore you're going to be chayav in such a way. So the same thing, if you're going to come and you're going to do it in such a fashion, right? That's when you're going to be chayav mita. Okay? Fine. Chayav ala rosh. We're talking about now hakafat rosh. Remember that on hakafat rosh, there's going to be 2 different malkiyot. Yeah? You're checking up? There's going to be 2 different malkiyot. Yeah? All right? Why? Because the 2 different sides of the head. Right? So he says like this. Machve Rav Sheshat. So Rav Sheshat comes and he showed ben pirkei resha. Right? The 2 different parts of the head, which are the tzeda'ayin. So he says, Vela zakan, you're going to have 5. So he came and he was showing the different parts when they were connecting on the beard. So here you have in the lemata, you've got their minimum of 3 explanations. I don't know if you see it, Aleph, Bet, and Gimel. So because of that, there's different machlokot. Where exactly are the 5 points in the beard? Okay. So now he comes and he says like this. Rabbi Eliezer argues on the Tanakama and he says, Im nitalan, right? Kulan ka'achat, you're only going to be chayav 1 malkut. So Kasavar, he holds that all the 5 peot are considered 1 lav. It's only 1 avirah, and therefore you're only going to get 1 set of lashes. You're not going to get 5 sets of lashes. So now we said you're also only going to be chayav if you only took a betar. So you're not allowed to come and take off your beard. So he says, I would have thought to say even if you take it with scissors, you're going to be chayav. Tomulomar lo tashchit. It has to be hashchata. Hashchata is not with misparaim. Okay, so it has to be mamash samuch leshoresh. So he says b'misparaim, right? You could still see it. So it's not called hashchata. So that's why it's permitted. So ilo tashchit. If it was only written lo tashchit, you could even take it with the melaket urhitni. So you're going to be chayav. Tomulomar lo yigalechu. What does that mean? This comes to be to exclude that when you're going to come and take it with the melaket urhitni, which is not called giluach, because that's not the way to be megaleach searot. So if we learn from Gzera Shava that also Yisrael is not going to be chayav unless he did it with a giluach. So that has to be with a ta'ar. Okay, that's the only way that you're going to be chayav. So haketzad, mazema. There are different types of utensils of like scissors that you're taking it off. So he comes and he says like this. He says, haketzad. What are we talking about? Giluach shesh bo hashchata. What is a giluach which has hashchata? So he says, ze ta'ar. That's only a ta'ar. There's a sakin giluach, that's the only thing which is mamash, a razor, mamash, it goes mamash to the skin. Rabbi Eliezer says, you're going to be chayav. Manavshach. If you're going to learn the Gzera Shava, so you need a ta'ar. And if you don't learn the Gzera Shava, so therefore it should be asur even with misparaim. So he says, no, he does learn the Gzera Shava, and he holds haninami giluach avdi. He says, no, that this ritni and everything is also doing derech hashchata. So the fact that it's also going to be doing derech hashchata, right? It's going to be a problem. Okay, fine. Let's go. Says the Gemara. This is now the Mishnah. Okay. Mishnah. Kafalef Amud Aleph. Hakotev ketovet ka'ka. Yeah, people we're speaking here about different tattoos. So here we're going to start learning about them. Hakotev ketovet ka'ka. If somebody's going to put ketovet ka'ka, right, which is basically, again, whether it's talking about dio, tseva, or other things on his body, and they usually do it with a knife or with a needle, he's going to be chayav malkut. Katav velo ka'ka, ka'ka velo katav. What happens if he wrote it, right, whether it's going to be but he didn't actually make it like a tattoo, right? No, because henna is not writing anything. But here he's writing something with dio or tseva, but he did not put it inside. Ma? No, writing, that's fine. But here we're talking about if you write it without the kaka or kaka without the writing, you're not going to be chayav malkut. Even if it would be permanent, you're not going to be chayav malkut until you have to be yichtov and yikaka. You need both of them together, plus with a dio, 1 minute, plus with dio and with the kol. Right? What does that mean? Or kol davar shuroshem, which means that in order for you to be chayav ktovet kaka, you need two things. You need an imprint in the skin, meaning it has to be in the skin, not milamala, right? Plus, it has to be with something which is roshem, right? So therefore, it has to be an ink, a dye, right? It has to be something which is roshem. So you need both things in order to be chayav the malkut, because that is the yisur. Which one? Yes, but lav davka needle. It could be a knife, it could be this, right? And lav davka ink. It could be any type of a paint, any type of anything. Yeah, any type of a paint or anything. You're saying from the Mishnayot? It could be. It could be. Yeah. מה אתה רוצה להיות חייב? מיטה?
עדיין זה דאורייתא.
כל דאורייתא. אתה אכלת חזיר. אני יכול להרוג אותך? אני לא יכול לעשות כלום. מלכות זה מקסימום.
גם על חזיר הוא אומר. אני מדבר בדאורייתא.
רבי שמעון בן יהודה משום רבי שמעון אומר, says רבי שמעון בן יהודה דנים רבי שמעון, אינו חייב עד שיכתוב שם את השם. The only time you're going to be chayav is if you put in the ktovet ka'aka the shem. The Gemara is going to explain. Avodah zara. We're going to explain. Okay, so he says, right, shene'emar uktovet ka'aka lo titenu bachem ani Hashem. Okay, let's see the Gemara. So says the Gemara. Amaleh Ravacha bered Rava l'Ravashi. Says Ravacha bered Rava, the son of Rava to Ravashi. Ad sheyichtov ani Hashem mamash. 1 second. Does it mean that you have to write down the words ani Hashem? Because it says, Uchtovet ka'aka lo titnu bachem, comma, ani Hashem. So what? You really have to write Ani Hashem? Amaleh, no, that's not the pshat. Tani bar kapara. Eno chayav sheichtov shem shel avodat kochavim. It means that you're not going to be chayav until you actually write the name of avodah zarah. Shneimar uchdov avodah kochavim Ani Hashem, which means Ani Hashem v'lo acher. It's not saying that you have to write Ani Hashem. It just means Ani Hashem and not anything else. So therefore, if you're going to write another avodah zarah, that's when you're going to be chayav. So Amar Ravada bar Ava, right? Amar Malkiya, Amar Ravada bar Ava. Asulo ladam sheiten efer mikle al gabe makato. Mivnei shenid'et kitovet kaka. Do you know that there's something which is called efer mikle? Efer is ashes, and it comes from the oven. Right? It comes. You take ashes that comes from the oven. What? We don't do it, but yeah, some people they do it. They put it on the head of the chatan. So he says, al gabe makato. If you're going to put it on a person's going to put it on a wound. So therefore, to heal it, you're not allowed to. Why? Because what happens is it goes into the makkah, right? And once it goes into the makkah, it makes a roshem for a long, long time. So it looks like a ketovet ka'aka. Yeah? That's what they do. If a person has a wound, they'll take efer mikle, they'll put it on the wound, and then by putting it on the wound, it heals it. But it's going to stay there for a long time. So it looks like ketovet ka'aka. So Amar Rav Nachman bered Ravika, said Nachman de Ravika, Shaput shefachot gumot is Rav Malkiyo, Blorit efer mikle ugvina is Rav Malkaya, and Rav Papa Amar matnitin matnita, right, Rav Malkiya, shmateta, right, Rav Malkiyo, the simanach matnita malketa, right? What does that mean? Did you realize what was the name of the rabbi that said this? It said Amar Rav Malkiya in the name of Ravada Barava. And what did he speak about? Efer mikle. Okay, Rav Malkiya. So Rav Nachman comes and he says that there are three different gemarot. One of them is to do with shipud. So if you look in the footnotes right away, or in Rashi, it's going to explain, right? The shipud is the gemara, which we're talking about shipud shetzalu basar. You're not allowed to move it on Yom Tov. If they use the skewer, there was a skewer, shipudim. Shvachot is going to be the shima of if right now, right, she comes and she brings in with her nedunya shifcha, so she's zakait lemayet mina melachot. She doesn't have to work that much, right? Number 3 was gumot. What are we talking about now? Gumot. We're talking about a katano ktana that they're already 13 years old and they have 2 pubic hairs. They're already considered gdolim and they're obligated in all the halachot of the Torah, right? You guys are missing everything if you're just talking. Ma? Because it's like a hole. Where do the hair comes from? The hair comes from holes. So he comes and he says, right, the shortish of the searot, they come from gumot. So Rav Malkiyo, right? So he says, Rav Nachman Ravika comes and he says, these 3 are from Rav Malkiyo. The other 3, which is talking about blorit. So blorit, he comes and he says, we're talking about minhag of the goyim, that they used to have a blorit on their heads. Or efer mikle, that was the one that we just mentioned now in our Gemara. Or gvina. Here we're talking about the gvina of de kochavim. That was Rav Malkaya. That means, according to what we just mentioned, right? According to Rav Nachman, we flipped it. We read our Gemara, Amar Rav Malkaya, Efer Mikle. Says Rav Nachman, Bered Ravika, Efer Mikle is Rav Malkaya. Sorry. So that's exactly like what we just mentioned now. Right? So he says, Blorit, Efer Mikle, Gvina is Rav Malkaya. So that's perfect. Because Efer Mikle, Rav Malkaya. Rav Papa, okay, he's going to divide it separately. Right? Again, we're trying to find, right? Who says what? Because remember, there are 2 names, very similar. So I want to know who says what. Is it Rav Malkiya or Rav Malkiyo? Okay? So Rav Papa comes and he says, the memrot which are kashur to mishnayot or braitot, or Rav Malkiya. The shmateta, which have to do with amoraim, right? That is going to be Rav Malkiyo. What's the siman? Matnita malketa. The Mishnayot are like a melech, meaning, remember that we have a Mishnah and the Braitot which come out from the Mishnayot, and then you have Amoraim. The Mishnayot are Tanaim. So he wants to say that anything that had to do with a Mishnah, right? Because some of these were Mishnayot. It says here some of them was a Mishnah and some of them were Braitot. So he comes and he says anything which was a Mishnah, right, was going to be Rav Malkaya, and that's a siman, right? Malketa, he says matnita malketa, anything which is going to be Braita was Rav Malkiyo. So says the Gemara, my benai, what's the difference between them? Meaning you gave me two different simanim. The first one just gave me 3 cases and 3 cases. The second one just told me if it's a Mishnah and a Braita, so then it's Rav Malkiya. And if it's only going to be Amonaim, it's going to be Rav Malkiyo. What's the difference between them? Ikabenayu shvachot. What does that mean? That means the only difference between the two different opinions was the case of shefachot. Because Rav Nachman and Ravika said it was Rav Malkiyo, but according to Rav Papa, it's Rav Malkiya, because obviously the case of shefachot came from a Mishnah. And if it came from Mishnah, it's Rav Malkiya. But according to Rav Papa, he said shefachot was Rav Malkiyo. Okay, until here we're clear. So says the Gemara, Rav Bevai Barabai kapid afilu arivda de kusilta. Do you know that Rav Bevai Barabai was makpid not to put efer mikle, not even on mamash like a psia ktana, right? Mamash like a that it also looks like a ktovet kaka. So mamash he couldn't put it on nothing. Some people say that he was doing even on a makak ktana kolkach, that there, like, you know, does it even look like it or not? Because it doesn't even have the shiur of ktovet kaka. So this is even more like what the doctor was saying. The doctor was saying it's mamash like a little tiny dot even. So he was makpid mamash on something that bichlal was nothing. Right? Fine. Anyway, some people say also that the makak tana kulkach, for sure there's not surat of an ot. It has to have like a tzura like of a letter or something, meaning it has to look like if somebody, it looks like a dot. It doesn't look like somebody's going to ask you, is that a tattoo? Nobody's going to say it's a tattoo. Let's say he's got a dot, he's got, I don't know what, he had a hole, he had some type of surgery, it's not ketovet kaka. So Ravashi says, Kol makom shesh maka, makato mochiach alav. Says Ravashi, no, I've got another answer. He says, anytime where you have a makah, it's permitted. Why? The makah is the proof. Meaning, you see that the person did not do a ketovet kaka. He put it there just to fix his makah. So the makah is mochiach that he's not doing any isur. So therefore, there's no problem according to Shtat Ravashi. Obviously, the halacha, right? Fine. Says the Mishnah. Nazir, the bottom of Kafalef and Mudalef. Says Nazir shaya shote yain kol hayom. You have a Nazir that was drinking wine all day. En chayav el achat. So he's only going to be chayav 1 set of lashes. Right? Amru lo al tishteh al tishteh. They tell him, don't drink, don't drink. V'hu shoten, he continues drinking. Chayav el kol achav achat. Why? Because they gave him a hatra on every single one. So he's going to be chayav el kol achav achat. Right? ודאי, בגלל זה נותנים לו lashes. היה מטמא למתים כל היום, if he's going to be מטמא למתים all day, he's going to be חייב 1. They tell him אל תטמא, don't become טמא ומטמא, he's going to be חייב על כל אחד ואחת. היה מגלח כל יום, he's shaving every single day. Again, he's going to be חייב 1. If they told him אל תגלח, והוא מגלח, חייב על כל אחד ואחת. היה לבוש בכליים כל היום, if he has כליים the entire day. So this has nothing to do anymore with the Nazir, right? It's with anybody. A person that's coming and he's putting on כליים all day. So he says, הוא חייב לאחת. אמרו לו על תיבש על תיבש, והוא פושט ולובש, he takes it off, puts it back on, takes it off, he's going to be חייב על כל אחת ואחת. Yes, always. So it says, כף א' עמוד א', 21b, it says, יש חורש תלם אחד, וחייב עליו משום 8 לווין. He says, there's going to be somebody that's going to come, he's going to plant a field, he's going to plow a field, sorry, and he's going to be חייב 8 לווין. Yeah, imagine, 1 plowing, and he's going to be chayav 8 avirot. Number 1, hachoresh b'shor v'chamor. If he's plowing with an ox and a donkey, so that's kilaim. Yeah. The number 2 and 3, you're not allowed to put an ox and a donkey together. Kilaim. There's kilaim bebegadim, right? Kilaim, there's bebegadim in clothing. You have kilaim in planting, right? In planting, you're not allowed to plant the grapes with the grain. Okay? So the kilaim, it's kilaim in the Torah. Kilaim just means a mixture, forbidden mixtures. So you're not allowed to have a forbidden mixture with animals, with clothing, and with planting, with planting. So a person comes and they plowed, we're talking about plowing here, with a shor and a hamor. Okay, so you're not allowed to. Yeah. He comes and he says now, right? He comes and he says as follows. He comes and he says number 2 and 3 is going to be Vehen Mugdashin. Both of them are Ekdesh. which means that they're bechors from their mothers. So therefore, there are going to be 2 averot there. Number 4, kilaim bekerem. What was he plowing? Kilaim bekerem. So again, I told you it's going to be in the. He had the anavim with old zironim. So now you had the kilaim, not only in the animals, you had kilaim in the planting. Okay, so kilaim bekerem. Number 5, right? Lotizra karmecha kilaim. Number 5, shvit shemitah. You're not allowed to do anything on shemitah. Number 6, yom tov. Number 7, he was a kohen, right? And number 8, right? He's a nazir, and he's in a bet tumah. So therefore, since he's in a bet tumah, you have the yisur of the kohen and the yisur of a nazir. Because a kohen cannot be mitamemet, and a nazir cannot be mitamemet. So therefore, that's why we said it was a kohen and a nazir bet tumah. So therefore, you're going to be over on 8 averot. Okay, everyone clear? One more time. One person could plow once, and he gets 8 averot. 8 averot in one shot. Okay? Continues. Even if he's going to be lovesh kilaim, amrulo, they said no. He said now we went into the third one of kilaim, because we said kilaim, he's kilaim of the behemoth, kilaim of the planting, and now kilaim, he's lovesh kilaim. So he's got beged semen ufishtim biyachad, and he's wearing it. So that's a 9. So amrulo, they told him eno Hashem, has nothing to do with the plowing. Amar lahem, he says afa nazir lo Hashem. So also the nazir has nothing to do with anything else. So what does that mean? Yeah, just because he went into the bet kavarot, ma kasher. What? So fine. So it says now, right? The Elmaleh, he says, so to the Nazir is also not the same name, because the Nazir has nothing to do with the Charisha. So it's not the Oto Shem. Fine. Says the Gemara. Gemara kafal v'mubet. Amar Rav Bevai, Amar Rav Yosef. Says Rav Bevai in the name of Yosef. Poshet velovesh. Right? When we just said that right now, if you come and you tell him, don't put it on, don't put it on. We're talking about the shatnez, right? A person, let's say, for example, he's coming in on and putting it on every single time. So it means poshev lovesh, and then he's coming and he's taking it off, putting it back on, taking it off, putting it back on. So he says lovesh mamash. So we're talking about the mamash, he's putting it on again from the beginning. As a filu machnisu motzi bet yadun kalushlo. So even if he just takes it off and just even one of the arms, right? So why shouldn't he be chayav, right? Meaning, when I come and you have somebody that's wearing shatnez, okay, and you keep on telling him, don't wear the shatnez. So you're going to be chayav, correct? So now, what does that mean? That you have to actually take off the clothing and then put it back on, and take off the clothing and then again put it back on? Or I could just even take off the sleeves and put back the sleeves, and I'm already going to be chayav. Does it have to be mamash? I have to remove it? Or not? So says the Gemara, right? Mamash achnasa v'yotza. You have to take it off and put it on. Mamash, you have to do it like that. So he comes and he says, Ravashi says, no. Afilu lo sha'a ela kedei livshov libosh chayav. Even if I didn't take it off at all, if I left it on, the amount of time that it takes to take off and put it back on, zekvar maspik. Sasufi. Yeah, zekvar maspik. Huh? The zman is already enough. I don't have to actually physically come, right? Well, that's what we're talking about. Okay, fine. Next, 2 dots. Yesh chodesh telem echad. So he says, Amar Rabbi Yanai, he says Rabbi Yanai, bechabura, right? Nimnu vegamru achufe b'kilaim lokeh. So do you know that when the Chachamim came in the Chabura and they were judging, they went and they said that even if somebody's going to cover zra'im, which are kilaim, he also gets malkut, because the covering of them is considered their planting. Meaning when you come and you have seeds, and I come and I cover over those seeds, that's planting. The planting is not only putting the seeds in the ground. Ani bati v'ani mechaseh otam. K'shani mechaseh et hazra'im. Yeah, it's like katman on the plata. Yeah, I'm coming and I'm covering it over. That in itself, מה? מה הקשר להציץ? אנחנו מדברים בקרקע. Yeah. You're getting into akuv and akuv. I'm not getting into that. Yeah. He says, Elmaleh Rabbi Yochanan, says Rabbi Yochanan, lo mishnatenu hizo. He comes and he says, what are you talking about? It doesn't come from a Stam Mishnah. The Stam Mishnah says, Yesh chodesh telem echad v'chayav la mishum shmo lavin. Right? You're going to come and you're going to plow one time. You're going to be chayav because of eight lavin. HaChodesh v'shor chamor v'mukdoshim miklam mecherem. So he says, Hay chodesh mechayev mishum kilayim. What's the case? Lav de mikaseh ba'adeh azil. We're talking about obviously that he's covering it over, right? And therefore, obviously the chipui is considered zriya. So Elmaleh, because remember, we were talking about chodesh. If you're talking about chodesh, how are we talking about in the kilayim? Choresh is plowing. Plowing comes before planting, right? So the truth is there's two choresh actually. They used to plow before and then they used to plow after. Meaning they used to plow at the beginning, right? In order to soften the land. And then they used to put the seeds, and then they used to do harisha again to cover it over, to cover it over. So therefore he comes and he says, what was the case here? Plowing. You plowed with a short and a chamor together. You plowed the short and the chamor, they're both mugdashim. Then you plowed kilaim. What's the case of the kilaim? Case of kilaim was that you went and you covered it over. You had the seeds there. So Amalei, ilavde delaila chaspa, right? If it wasn't for the fact that I picked up a piece of cheres, would you actually find the jewel underneath it? Which means if I didn't teach you about chofe bekilaim, that is kilu that, so therefore I wouldn't have known to explain the Mishnah that way. Meaning now that I came and I picked up, כשאני לוקח cheres, בוא נגיד יש פה ספת. כשאני מרים את זה, פתאום אני מוצא איזה jewels underneath. Now that I did that, now, עכשיו מצאתי את הזהב, עכשיו מצאתי את זה. עכשיו שאני יודע את זה, עכשיו אני יכול להסביר את המשנה ככה. So, Elmaleh לשקיש רבי יוחנן, says לשקיש רבי יוחנן, אילאו דקילסך גברא רבא, if it wasn't for the fact that somebody great praised you, havamina matniti, I would have thought our Mishnah is who? Rabbi Akiva. But Rabbi Akiva says, Mekayem kilaim lokeh. Even the fact that you're mekayem kilaim, you get lashes. Meaning you don't even have to plant the kilaim. The fact that you left the kilaim there and you're mekayem ota, you establish it, you leave it there. That in itself is already enough to get lashes. My Rabbi Akiva, what was the case of Akiva? The time was we went in a braita, amnakesh v'amchape b'kilaim lokeh. Right? If somebody's going to come and he's going to take out the weeds, he's gonna, or mechape b'kilaim, where he covers it over, he's going to be lashes. Says Rabbi Akiva, afa mekayem. Even if you're going to be mekayem the kilaim, you're also going to be lokeh. My time at the Rabbi Akiva, what's the reason in Rabbi Akiva? At the time we learned on the Braita, so the chalot is kilaim. Only zorea. There it says you can't plant your field kilaim, but that's zriya. Mekayem minayim. Tamolomar kilaim sadecha lo tizra. Right? That's where they learn it from. Fine. Amale ula Rav Nachman says ula to Rav Nachman. Velilke nami mishum zorea biyom tov. So he says, why don't we come and we also get lashes because of zorea biyom tov? So Elmaleh comes and he says tana v'shiyeh. He says, you're right. Why don't we also, when you should get lashes, because you're zorea and yom tov itself? Meaning we went and we brought down, right, that it was going to be yom tov. So now you're doing charisha on yom tov. But what about zriya b'yom tov? It's an extra avirah. On Yom Tov, you can't do the charisha and the zriya. There's shte melachot, right? But 39 melachot, on the 39 melachot, there's 2 melachot. Choresh and zorea. We only brought down choresh. But if this is what you're doing, so it's also zorea. So why don't we bring down zorea? You're zorea on Yom Tov. So answers the Gemara, you're right. Tana v'shir. Tana v'shir means that sometimes the Tana brought down, let's say, 8 tavirot, and really be'emet, הוא משייר שיש באמת עוד אחד. יש באמת 9, או 10. So says the Gemara, right? Elmaleh Tana Katani Shmone ve'atamar Tana v'shir. So I don't understand you. If you're going to come and tell me Tana v'shir, usually Tana v'shir means that I come and I leave something over. There's a few other things. But if I'm going to tell you 8, it means dafka 8. Yeah, imagine right now I come to him and he tells me there's going to be 4 courses. I'm going to say, yeah, but you didn't mention another one. He says, no, I didn't bring you down every single course. Well, you said 4. If there's going to be 4-course meal, it's 4 courses, right? Tana v'shir, just if you gave me the specific number, I give you a number, right? You can't come and tell me Tana v'shir that he left something over. So Elmaleh Rava comes and he says, Yesh chiluk melachot b'Shabbat ve'en chiluk melachot b'Yom Tov. On Shabbat, there's such a thing as chiluk melachot, but not on Yom Tov. Meaning on Yom Tov, if somebody's going to come and he's going to do a whole bunch of different things, he's only going to get 1 set of lashes, because all the avot melachot are 1 avirah. Av kol melechet avodah lo ta'asu. It's not like Shabbat. Shabbat, if a person was choresh, soreah, kotzer, right, dash, ne'amet, every single one is a separate one. Kol echad ve'echad ze avirah b'ifnei atzma. B'ilchot Yom Tov, kulam davar echad. It says kol melechet avodah lo ta'asu. You're right, each one in its own is an avirah. But to do with the lashes, it's a one general concept. So therefore, that's what the Gemara says, right? This is what Rava says to Ula, right? No, on Shabbat, each one is a separate entity in itself. On Yom Tov, it's all one entity, right? It's Shemot Muchlakim, Shemot Chalukim. with one hatra'ah, you only get, well, it depends. On Shabbat, you have to bring each one, on each separate melacha, you have to bring a korban chatat on every single one, right? But on Yom Tov, it's only one. Okay? So he comes and he says, right? Elmaleh, he says, adatehe. You're right. This is be'emet a good answer on why be'emet we said on Yom Tov that it's not going to be considered, right? That means there's no difference between Chodesh and Zoreh and Yom Tov, but zeh oto davar. Meaning on Yom Tov, even if he did do Chodesh and even if he did do Zoreah, you're right, it's the same thing. Okay? Eitvei Abaye. Abaye comes and he asks, Ve'en chiluk b'yom tov? What? There's no chiluk melachot in Yom Tov? Patram, we learned in the Mishnah. Hamvashel gid b'chalav b'yom tov, right? V'achalo. If somebody's going to be cooking a gid and asheh, right, with chalav on Yom Tov, and he eats it, he's going to get 5 lashes. Number 1, because of gid and asheh. Number 2, v'vashel b'yom tov shelo l'tzorech. Remember on Yom Tov, you're only allowed to cook for tzorech. Somebody once asked me this on Pesach. They wanted to cook kasher Pesach or bake kasher Pesach items for mimona. Yeah, so they come and they tell me, they're going to start baking this. I told me, zover an Yom Tov, mechalel Yom Tov. Nah, mechalel Yom Tov. Why mechalel Yom Tov? Right? They want to bake on Yom Tov for mimona. Yeah. No, לא חול המועד, יום טוב. קשה לפסח. קשה לפסח. לא מופלטה, אמרתי בייקינג, סתם, הוא רוצה לבשל משהו, הוא לא רוצה לפות משהו. בשביל הערב. אסור, איסור דורייתא. Why is it איסור דורייתא? Right? No, we're talking about יום טוב. Who's talking about the thing? Pay attention, gentlemen. One more time. I have to read it 5 times. Ve'en chiluk melachot b'yom tov. We're talking about Yom Tov. Yeah, who's talking about Chol HaMoed? One more time. That I don't care what other people saying. I'm reading a Gemara. Right? En chiluk b'yom tov. He says, Hamashel gid b'chalav b'yom tov. Right? And he eats it. He's going to get 5 sets of lashes. Number 1, gid and asheh. Number 2, mevashel b'yom tov for no reason. What does that mean? If you cooked on Yom Tov for no reason, right? If you cook, so therefore, right? It's over and Isur Doraita. Veloke, you're going to get lashes. Why are you going to get lashes? Because of Mevashel Gid B'Chalav. You're going to come and you're going to be cooking Gid B'Chalav. Number 4, right? You're eating Basar B'Chalav, meaning cooking the Basar B'Chalav and eating Basar B'Chalav. Veloke, and you're also going to get lashes Mishum Havara, because you turned on the fire, which is an Ava Melacha, and it was only required for that day. It's only for Letzorach Hayom. Okay, so he comes and he says like this. He says, "V'imita." Now, if you're going to tell me that there's no chiluk melachot Yom Tov, mishum havara, you shouldn't be b'chayav because you already said that you're going to be chayav on bishul. So bishul and the making the fire is 2 av melachot. Basar v'chalav and the eating of basar v'chalav is 2 separate things. The bishul, right, which is going to be bishul. So the bishul and the fire is 2 different av melachot. On Yom Tov, you just told me that it's 1 melacha. So for why are you going to be on 1 melacha? So he said, you're right. Apek avara, you have to take out avara and you have to put in gid and ashev nevela. It belonged to an unkosher animal. So since it was a gid and ashev nevela, that's why it's going to be